The prince disappeared from the palace in the middle of the night, and nobody knew why. For 3 weeks, the kingdom was in chaos. Guards searched everywhere. The king was furious. Nobody dared speak about it openly. It was too shameful for the royal family. But then something strange happened. A young man nobody recognized started appearing in the village markets. He dressed like a poor trader. He spoke like a common person. But something about him was different. He moved like someone used to authority. He watched people like he was studying them. And every day, he seemed to be looking for something or someone. The worst part? When people started disappearing. Not dead. Just gone. Young women from good families. They'd be working in the market or at home, and then they'd vanish for days. When they came back, they wouldn't talk about where they'd been. They'd just smile and say they met someone important. Someone who needed them. Nobody put it together at first. But then more girls disappeared. And a market trader named Kofi decided to find out what was happening. The kingdom was ruled by a good king. Everyone said so. The king had one son, Prince Kwame. The prince was supposed to be perfect, handsome, educated, trained to be a leader. All the noble families wanted their daughters to marry him. The king had been planning the prince's wedding for years. Then one night, something happened. The prince was supposed to attend a big celebration at the palace. He didn't show up. The king thought he was sick. But when guards went to check, his room was empty. The window was open. He was gone. The king didn't want anyone to know. The palace sent out messages saying the prince was sick with a fever and needed rest. But in the villages, people heard the truth. The prince had run away. Nobody understood why. The prince had everything. Why would he leave? The king ordered a search. Soldiers went to all the villages looking for him. But Prince Kwame had left the kingdom completely. Or so everyone thought. 3 weeks passed. The kingdom had stopped looking. People figured the prince didn't want to come back, so there was no point searching. The king was angry and sad at the same time. The wedding plans were canceled. Noble families who were supposed to have their daughters marry the prince were furious. Then something changed. It was a normal market day in the village of Akosua. The sun was hot, and people were trying to buy things before the afternoon heat became too much. A young man appeared at the market, and something about him felt wrong. He wore simple clothes like a poor farmer or trader. But he didn't fit. He moved through the market looking at everything, not at what people were selling, but at the people themselves. He watched the women especially. He watched how they moved, how they talked, how they treated customers. A market trader named Kofi noticed him immediately. Something about the stranger's movements didn't match his clothes. The way he held himself suggested education and power. Yet he was dressed in rags. The stranger came to Kofi's cloth stall. "What cloth do you have?" he asked in a voice that tried to sound simple but wasn't quite right. "Good cloth," Kofi said. "Cheap prices." "What do you need?" The stranger didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, "Do you have a sister?" Kofi thought the question was strange. "Yes." "Why do you ask?" "What is her name?" "My sister is named Akosua," Kofi said. "But why do you want to know?" The stranger smiled and walked away. Kofi watched him disappear into the crowd, confused by the encounter. The next day, the stranger came back. And the day after that. And the day after that. Every day he was in the market, watching. Always looking. Always studying the women. Then Akosua started seeing him. One day, the girl told her mother that a young man had spoken to her in the market. He told her she had kind eyes. He said she seemed intelligent. He asked if she wanted to meet him the next day. Akosua's mother was upset. "Don't talk to strange men," she said. But Akosua was stubborn. She was 17, old enough to think for herself. She met him the next day. When she came back home, something was different. She had a strange smile on her face. She wouldn't tell anyone where she'd been or what they'd talked about. She just said she'd been with someone interesting. Someone important. Who? Her brother Kofi asked.
Someone important, she said.
He told me not to tell anyone. Where did he take you? Somewhere special, she said. But I can't say more. Akosua's mother was worried. But Akosua kept meeting this man. Every day, she'd disappear for a few hours. Every day, she'd come back with that same strange smile and wouldn't say anything. Then other girls started disappearing too. First it was Alma, the blacksmith's daughter. She went to the market one morning and didn't come back until evening. When she came back, she acted the same as Akosua. Strange smile. Wouldn't talk about where she'd been. Then it was the cloth maker's daughter. Then Esi, who worked with her mother selling food. Then Adwoa. Then more. In 2 weeks, 8 girls had disappeared and come back different. The mothers started talking. They gathered at each other's houses, whispering about their missing daughters. They came to Akosua's mother with fear in their eyes. Where is he taking them? The blacksmith's wife asked. I don't know, Akosua's mother said. Akosua won't say. Ask her, another woman demanded. Your daughter will tell you. A mother has the right to know. Akosua's mother tried, but Akosua refused to answer. So the mothers went to Kofi. They asked him to find out where the stranger was taking the girls. They begged him to follow his sister and discover the truth. Kofi was worried too, but more than that, he was suspicious. Something about this situation didn't feel right. The next morning, Kofi woke up early and went to the market. He found a place where he could watch for the stranger without being seen. He stood behind a cloth stall, pretending to look at fabrics but really watching the entrance. The stranger arrived around mid-morning. He was alone. He wore the same simple clothes as always, but his movements were too precise, too controlled. Kofi watched as the stranger approached Akosua at the market. They spoke for a few minutes. Then Akosua said something to her mother. Her mother nodded. She was used to it by now. Akosua left with the stranger. Kofi followed them, keeping a distance. They walked through the village, past the houses, toward the edge where the houses got fewer and the forest started. Kofi stayed back, hiding behind buildings and trees, trying not to be seen. They walked for about 30 minutes. The path got narrower. The trees got thicker. They were moving away from the village completely. Then they reached a place Kofi didn't recognize. It was a compound, a big one hidden in the forest. There were several buildings. The buildings looked old, but they were well made. Someone had money. Someone important. The stranger and Akosua went inside one of the buildings. Kofi waited outside for about an hour, staying hidden. Then other girls started arriving. Different girls from different times. All being brought by men who looked like servants. All going into the same building. Kofi realized what was happening. This wasn't just one man taking girls. This was organized. There were servants. There was a compound. There was planning. He needed to get closer. Kofi waited until evening. The sun was getting low. He snuck around the compound, staying in the shadows, trying to see through windows. In one of the buildings, he could see light. He moved closer and looked through a crack in the wall. What he saw made his blood cold. The girls were sitting in a large room. Akosua was there. Alma was there. Ya was there. All of them. They looked healthy. They weren't being hurt. But they were trapped. Guards stood at the doors. Men Kofi had never seen before.
An older man was talking to them.
He wore nice clothes. Expensive clothes. Kofi had never seen him before, but something about him seemed royal. He moved like the king moves. He spoke like he was used to being obeyed. He was asking the girls questions. Tell me about your life, he said to one. What do you care about? What do you want? he asked another. They were answering him. They were telling him about themselves, about their families, about their dreams. Kofi heard him say to Akosua, "You told me yesterday that you wanted to learn to read. Is that true?" "Yes," Akosua said. "My father says there's no point teaching girls to read. But I want to learn." The man smiled. "That's good," he said. "That shows intelligence." Kofi didn't understand what was happening, but he knew he needed to get out of there and tell someone. He was about to move away from the window when a hand grabbed his shoulder. The hand belonged to a guard, a big man with a serious face. Kofi tried to run, but the guard was too strong. He dragged Kofi back into the compound. Kofi fought and struggled, but it was no use. The guard forced Kofi to sit on a bench. The girls looked at him in shock. Akosua started to say something, but the man raised his hand. "Let me explain," the man said. He sat down in front of Kofi. "My name is Kwame. I am here on behalf of Prince Kwame." Kofi's heart stopped. "The prince," Kofi said. "The prince who ran away?" "He didn't run away," Kwame said. "He made a choice. The king wanted to choose a wife for him. A girl from a noble family. A girl the prince had never met. A girl chosen only for power and money." Kofi didn't say anything. He didn't understand. "The prince is intelligent," Kwame continued. "He loves his kingdom. He wanted to be a good leader someday. But he didn't want to marry a stranger chosen by his father. So he made a decision. He decided to find a wife himself. A real wife. A wife he chose." "So he's kidnapping girls?"
Kofi asked.
"No," Kwame said. "He's meeting girls, getting to know them,
Talking to them.
finding out who they really are. The ones he meets have the choice to stay or go. Most choose to stay." "Why would they choose to stay?" Kofi demanded. "They're locked up. There are guards." "Are they locked up?" Kwame asked. "Or are they safe?"
Think about it.
Poor girls from the village. They've never been treated well. Nobody asks them what they want. Nobody cares about their dreams. The prince asks them. The prince listens. The prince treats them like their thoughts matter." Kofi looked at Akosua. She was nodding. "I want to stay," she said quietly. "I want to learn to read. I want to know what's possible. Nobody here is forcing me." "But it's dishonest," Kofi said. "It's wrong. The prince is deceiving people." "The prince is lonely," Kwame said. "He wanted to meet girls who would like him for who he is, not for his title." "Can you blame him for that?" Kofi didn't have an answer. Then the door opened. The young man Kofi had been following came in. He was wearing better clothes now. Expensive clothes. Royal clothes. Kofi recognized his face from paintings he'd seen in the capital city. It was Prince Kwame. "Stand down," the prince told the guard. "Let him go." The guard released Kofi. Kofi stumbled forward. "I'm sorry for the deception," the prince said. "But I needed to do this. I needed to know that the woman I marry will be with me because she wants to be, not because my father chose her. Not because she wants to be princess. Because she actually likes me." "This is wrong," Kofi said. "You're a prince. You can't just." "I know it's wrong," he said. "But I also know that I can't live the life my father planned for me without going crazy. And these girls," he gestured to Akosua and the others, "they wanted something better than what they had.
I'm giving them that."
He looked at each girl. "Starting today, everyone knows the truth. Anyone who wants to leave, you can go. No punishment. No trouble.
Just go.
But if you want to stay, if you want to be part of this, really part of it, then you stay knowing exactly who I am." He looked at Kofi. "And you," he said. "You're Akosua's brother, yes?" Kofi nodded. "What's your name?" "Kofi." Kofi, I'm going to offer you something. You can go back to the village and tell everyone what you saw.
Or you can help me.
Help me explain to the king.
Help me make this right.
Help me convince your sister and the others that this is worth pursuing. Kofi looked at Akosua. She was looking at him with hope in her eyes. I need to think, Kofi said. Think, the prince said. But know this. I'm going to ask one of these girls to marry me. Probably more than one if my father agrees to it. I'm going to choose based on character, not politics. And I'm going to build a kingdom where that matters. Kofi went back to the village that night. He told his mother and the other mothers what he'd seen. He told them about the prince.
He told them about his plan.
Most of them were angry at first. How dare the prince deceive their daughters? How dare he keep them? But then the girls started coming home, and they told their own stories. Alma said the prince had spent hours listening to her talk about her life. He'd asked her questions. He'd treated her like her opinions mattered. Ya said he'd promised to send her to school so she could learn a trade she wanted to learn. Akosua said he'd asked her to marry him. She'd said yes. The other girls had different stories, but they all said the same thing. The prince had treated them with respect. He'd made them feel like they mattered. The king was furious when he found out, but he couldn't do anything. His son was an adult, and more importantly, the people loved it. A prince who was humble. A prince who loved a girl from the village instead of the daughter of another noble family. It was romantic. It was different. Within a month, the prince came back to the palace openly. He brought Akosua and 2 other girls with him. He married Akosua first. The wedding was the biggest event the kingdom had ever seen. The king eventually accepted it. He had to. His people loved the prince for choosing love over duty. And his kingdom became different because of it. The king saw that his son was actually a good leader. He cared about real people. He listened to what ordinary people wanted. He treated women with respect. Years later, when the prince became king, he was known as a fair ruler. A ruler who listened. A ruler who cared. All because he wanted to find a real wife. Not a political match. Not someone chosen by his father. But someone he actually loved. Akosua learned to read. She learned other things too. She became an advisor to the king. She had children. She had a good life. The other girls got education and opportunities too. They married other nobles or became advisors themselves. Their lives changed from what they would have been. And Kofi? He kept selling cloth at the market, but now he was known as the trader who discovered the prince. People came to hear his story. He told it for many years, watching his sister become powerful and respected. Looking back at what happened, it's clear that what the prince did wasn't entirely right. It was deceptive. It was dishonest. He shouldn't have hidden who he was. But he also did something that nobody else in the kingdom was doing. He asked poor girls what they wanted. He listened to their dreams. He treated them like their lives mattered. Maybe that's the real story. Not about a prince deceiving people, but about a prince learning to see people. Really see them. Not as positions to fill or political pieces to move, but as actual human beings with hopes and dreams. Sometimes you have to break the rules to find what's real. Sometimes a prince has to stop being royal to understand what matters. And sometimes a village girl has to be willing to trust a stranger in order to find her own power. The prince found his wife. The kingdom found a good leader. And the village found something too, proof that people matter. That listening is more powerful than commanding. That love can change kingdoms.